when people are sort of selling us on plants as they have these polyphenols are antioxidants, it's important that we really understand that there are no compounds in plants that act directly as antioxidants in the human body.
Think about is that we've discovered that the molecules that you ingest when you drink one of those drinks that have the antioxidant properties, what's more than likely happening is that those molecules aren't directly mopping up free radicals, but they actually are, we've learned that they bind to receptors and enzymes that sense the environment, and they turn on our body's natural antioxidant defenses, such as catalase.
And basically these studies are very consistent that antioxidants do not work to reliably extend lifespan or prevent the vast majority of diseases.
And actually free radicals are beneficial in biology, so you don't want to swamp those out. It's been shown if you take a lot of vitamin C and even megadoses of vitamin E, you can blunt the effects of a healthy diet and exercise. So I'm not saying they're not part of it, and that's why I was saying I'm excited about this theory, is it can fit all of these observations in. You might be asking, well, why don't antioxidants work as well as we hoped? Well, one of the main reasons is that we think that there are other causes of DNA damage besides free radicals, and that you need more than that. But the other thing that's interesting to think about is that we've discovered that the molecules that you ingest when you drink one of those drinks that have the antioxidant properties, what's more than likely happening is that those molecules aren't directly mopping up free radicals, but they actually are, we've learned that they bind to receptors and enzymes that sense the environment, and they turn on our body's natural antioxidant defenses, such as catalase, an enzyme that's necessary for mopping those up. Now we have a theory for that. We called it xenohormesis. Xeno meaning from other species, and hormesis meaning anything that doesn't kill you will make you stronger. The idea is that plants make these antioxidants, what we call antioxidants, but they're actually xenohermetins, we call them, that are helping the plants survive and hunker down through their genetic survival pathways. And that by ingesting our plants when they're stressed out, we get the same benefits. We also need to hunker down if our food supply is going to run out. So that was
diabetes. In some cases, they actually worsen those conditions. And basically, you know, all of the evidence, and I'm not cherry picking the literature here, you can look at the meta-analyses from the American Heart Association that have tested these trials, where they've pooled all the studies together to look at the overall effect. So that prevents you from cherry picking an individual study or here or there. And basically these studies are very consistent that antioxidants do not work to reliably extend lifespan or prevent the vast majority of diseases.
Oops.
Yeah, so
it's a faulty thesis.
Right, so that's one layer of it. Now here's the other layer to tie it into what we were talking about before. So if free radicals are bad and cause disease and, you know, shorten your lifespan, then doing things which increase free radicals should, you know, sort of speed up your demise, essentially. So here's an example of one of those things that increases free radicals: exercise. Does exercise increase your, you know, the rate of aging and, you know, cause all these diseases because it's producing free radicals in your system? And
the opposite, yeah.
Right, and so it's the exact opposite. So you have this theory, the free radical theory of aging. It's accepted by 99.99999% of people because that's what we've been told for so many decades, and I was operating on that for many years or decades myself. Taking lots of antioxidant supplements, thinking that I'm so health conscious, I'm going to take all these antioxidant supplements, I'm doing myself such great things, and in fact, my health consciousness was probably actually doing me harm.
Because you were making your cells lazy?
Yes. So basically, so this free radical theory of aging, you know, the two main lines of evidence are: one, does taking antioxidants prevent disease and aging? No. Does exposure to free radical producing things like basically all the hormetic stressors, they all produce free radicals, does that increase aging and cause disease and speed up our demise? No. So basically the theory is not valid. And that's as controversial as that might sound to many of your viewers, the theory has actually already been pretty much discarded by virtually all aging scientists who actually study this field. They already know everything that I just said, and it's widely known. So what antioxidants are...
It's like 99.99% the same. But if you look at a plant, it's completely different. Plants do photosynthesis. They don't have really any of the same biochemistry as humans. So to imagine that we can get all the nutrients we need from plants, that's not true. We just can't. And it's very difficult to do that. But animals, they look just like us. Is from our operating system in terms of biochemistry. So when we eat animals, we can really get everything we need. And there's kind of a, I don't know. I mean, this is my controversial part of the podcast. I've been sort of saying it recently, and it's just a thought experiment. I'm not advocating for this, but if you think about it, if a human, where would a human find everything that a human needs in the perfect ratios to make another human?
If they ate another human.
Eat another human. I love that you said that. Like, you'd eat another human.
Is that right? Is that what? Okay.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, I would just ask people, and I'm just afraid that's going to be too controversial, but I think they'll understand that it's a thought experiment. If you ate another human, would you ever think that you would get a nutritional deficiency? No. Why would you? That's another human. Clearly, everything that you need to function is in that human. Well, what is more similar to another human? A deer or a cow or a kale plant? It's like, it's not even a question, right? Like, why do we think that kale is more nutritious than a steak? Like, that's just ludicrous, And a deer or a cow is very similar to a human. So if it's not occurring in one of those ruminant animals or even a monogastric like a pig, like those animals are so much more like a human in terms of all of their biochemistry. That's where we get the things we need.
I guess what you could argue is there some sort of nutrition required by a human which is synthesized from a plant so that, and then in the final form it supports the body, but you wouldn't necessarily get that in a way. You need the supplies rather than the finished product, vitamins or fiber or anything like that. Does that make sense? Like, somebody might say, yes, everything might be in the finished product, but you need the original supplies if you want to actually build that product again.
But I mean, here's the thing, right? If you wanted to build an automobile, you could either get the parts and build the automobile, or you could get an automobile that's already built and disassemble it and then use it to build a new one, right? So the idea is, if it's already built, we could digest it and then build a new one, is the idea. So I see what you're saying, that perhaps there are unique things in plants, but in terms of nutritional biochemistry, there's nothing that I think we've ever seen as humans that fills that role. And we can talk about, this gets into the discussion of polyphenols and fiber, but in terms of micronutrients and actual pieces of a human being, whether it's vitamin E or vitamin A or calcium or manganese or magnesium, like, it's all clearly in a human. If you wanted to build a Porsche, you'd go to the Porsche factory store and get some parts for a Porsche, right?
Okay, so that's a perfect example, because now I'm really thinking about this analogy. It's like if you had a really nice car and it looked really shiny, and say you wanted to create your own car from this Porsche, you wouldn't be able to get the shiny aspect for your new car, because what was required was somebody to bring that shiny spray or whatever. And so the analogy I'm making is something like you just mentioned with polyphenols and plants or something like that, where somebody could say, yes, all of the nutrients are there in meat, but these special compounds that are really going to upgrade and really make that human perform better or be more
Right.
resilient, that would be like the polyphenols in plants. So in our analogy, that would be having the extra stuff you use to make the car all shiny that aren't actually available in that car for you to take from the car.
Right. Okay, yeah, we can totally talk about that. So that's like the buffing, that's like the car wash, right? Like, how do you get the car shiny? Or, are there things in plants that are unique that we can't get from another human, basically? So I guess the argument that people would make there is that either that the polyphenols in plants are uniquely beneficial to humans, or there's something in plants that we need as humans that we can't get from eating another animal, right?
Yes, or there's just something in plants that can upgrade our performance. Like it's not necessarily required, but by having it, we're better off.
Right. And that gets into the concept of hormesis. Is that kind of what you're referring to? This idea that, okay, the hormetic stress of plants. Yeah, we can totally talk about that because that's a very interesting discussion. So for people that are hearing us say this word hormesis and wondering what we're talking about, hormesis is this idea that a little bit of a toxin or a little bit of a stress can be good for us. And in medicine, in human physiology, there are examples of molecular hormetics and there are examples of environmental hormetics. Environmental hormetics are things like exercise, heat, cold, and sunlight. And what I mean by those is that people will understand that if you exercise, it's actually kind of a little bit of a stress for your body, but then you stress your body, you're a little bit tired afterward, but then your body gets stronger in the long run. Like you exercise a muscle, you do a bicep curl, it's sore the next day, it's actually broken down a little bit, and the body rebuilds it a little stronger. So there are these examples of environmental hormetics, and heat exposure and cold exposure are actually hormetics. That means they're a little bit of a stress for the human body. And people may not know this, but if we're actually talking about potential benefits from plants like antioxidants from plants, quote unquote antioxidants, what we're generally talking about is oxidative stress and the ability to deal with oxidative stress and the body making more glutathione, which is the main molecular policeman in the human body that goes around and sort of controls these free radicals in the human body. So when people are sort of selling us on plants as they have these polyphenols are antioxidants, it's important that we really understand that there are no compounds in plants that act directly as antioxidants in the human body. That is not true. These compounds in plants may have a molecular hormetic effect on the human body by being small amounts of stress, small amounts of toxins that then trigger the human body through molecular systems like NRF2 and then upregulation of genes involved in the production of molecules like glutathione, which is our own endogenous antioxidant molecule, that these plant stressors may upregulate our own glutathione. It's important that people realize that we don't need plants to make glutathione and that we every day encounter things which are hormetics for us. These are, like I said, environmental hormetics. You exercise, you jump in a cold pool, you go in a sauna, you're out in the sun. I would argue that those things that we do, living a quote unquote radical life, can create an optimal antioxidant status in humans without plant hormetics. And I will